All right, and then let me share my screen with you. All right, can I get just some head nods if you can see my screen and see this WIC Dietetic internship presentation? Wonderful, thank you. So today we are going to spend the next 30 minutes together talking about the WIC Dietetic Internship Program. This WIC Dietetic Internship Program is housed within the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. And you can see here, this is our most recent cohort that just finished up the program in the last, let's see, so mid-April and then end of May. And about half of those individuals that you see in this picture here have already passed their RD exam and are working as RDs, which is really exciting. I do apologize. I am in the office today and we are in cubicles. So if you hear some background noise, just know that I'm not alone and there are other people around me. So this is just what it is. So today we're going to be talking about just what this program is, how it ties into getting that RD credential, what the eligibility requirements are for this program, and when you're eligible to apply. I'll talk a little bit about the application process itself and some of the need to know information about that. And then, of course, leave some time at the end for any questions that you all might have. So let's start by talking about the program itself. So like I said, the WIC Dietetic Internship is housed within Maricopa County Department of Public Health, and we are a public health-focused supervised practice program that provides the supervised practice hours that are required to sit for the registered dietitian nutritionist exam. So throughout the program, interns complete the 1,000 required supervised practice hours that again make you eligible to sit for that exam. While we are a public health focused program, that doesn't mean that interns don't do clinical rotations. Interns still complete clinical rotations in food and nutrition management, but we do have some specific rotations that are more focused on public health, like a 2-week rotation with our Maricopa County food systems team, learning all about the food systems in Arizona, and then some other focuses that are related more so to public health and community nutrition. So within this program, we accept up to 6 interns every single year from WIC local agencies across Arizona. So it really is kind of a mixture depending on the year of where those interns are coming from, but we accept interns from any Arizona WIC local agency, obviously including Pima County. And then, of course, at the end of the program, it's job security. So graduates are contracted to work for Arizona WIC for 2 years after passing the RDN exam. So if you've heard information about this program before, my hope is as we go through this presentation, you kind of have a clean slate and we make it a little bit more clear some of the information in the past, because in the past it used to be a 3-year contract at the point that started at the point of graduation. And now it's a 2-year contract that you have to work for WIC, and it starts after passing the RD exam. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of this program and what it takes to get to that RDN credential and how this program gets you there. It's expensive, right? The pathway to get through all of the education and the supervised practice, plus taking the exam, plus paying for study materials, all of those things to get you to that RDN credential can really add up. And so our program is really focused on being that lower cost pathway to the credential. We accomplish this in a couple different ways. So first and foremost, the WIC Dietetic Internship has no tuition. So you do not pay any tuition costs to be part of this program. Additionally, we pay for all attempts on the RDN exam. So to take that final exam to become an RDN, each exam costs about $225. It's a tough test. It is about I think like a 60% first time pass rate. So we love it when our graduates pass on the first attempt. If it takes more than one attempt, it's no indicator that they're not going to be a good clinician. It's a tough test. So we will continue to reimburse for the RDN exam until our graduates pass. And then, of course, we also provide and pay for study materials for the RDN exam. So we pay for RD bootcamp, we pay for pocket prep, again, trying to really reduce the cost that is associated with getting to that RDN credential. The other really important thing about this is you do continue to receive compensation and benefits throughout the entirety of the internship. So you do not have unpaid time while you are completing your supervised practice hours to then be eligible to sit for that RDN exam. So you continue to retain your employment. In your all's case, it would be with Pima County. So you are continuing to be employees of Pima County throughout and receive that compensation and benefits. Flexibility with graduate degree options. We'll talk a little bit more about this in depth a little bit later, but we do have flexibility with those options. Another really important thing, I think, when it comes to determining what is the best supervised practice program for you is looking at whether rotations are scheduled by the program or if interns are required to find their rotation sites and preceptors themselves. And within our program, you don't have to do any of the work. We schedule all rotations. We have a really, really wonderful group of preceptors that provide rotation sites for our interns. And we also tailor those rotations specifically to the interests of each intern. So every intern, like I said a little bit earlier, has to complete a clinical rotation. They have to complete food and nutrition management rotation and a couple different public health things. But other than that, we have options in public policy. We have options in outpatient oncology, pediatrics. We have a bunch of different specialty areas, Blue Zone, Scottsdale, a bunch of different specialty areas where depending on what your area of interest is and what you want to learn while you're doing the supervised practice, you can have an opportunity to explore those options a little bit more in depth. And then lastly, it's a really supportive environment. There is dedicated staff to help support interns every step of the way throughout the internship process. We're not a university. We're not teaching classes on the side where we're only dedicating a certain period of our or amount of our work time to supporting this program. I'm a full-time employee who supports this program entirely. That's what my entire job is. And then my supervisor also dedicates time to supporting, and we also have an assistant dietetic internship coordinator too. So there's plenty of support with dedicated staff to ensuring your success throughout. That's about the program overview. Now we're going to talk about the eligibility requirements and what it actually takes to be eligible to apply to this program. So again, if you've heard information in the past about what it takes to be eligible for this program, let it go. We're starting fresh, we're starting from scratch, and really trying to simplify this process. So ultimately, there are only 3 things that you need to be eligible to apply for this program. First is you do have to have a verification of completion of a didactic program in dietetics, or a DPD, in order to apply. This is that very specific nutrition undergraduate degree, and that is a requirement to apply to this program. You also must have worked for WIC in Arizona for at least 6 months full-time prior to the application due date of January 15th. And then, of course, the easy one, because you're all on this call working for Pima County already, you have to currently be employed at an Arizona WIC local agency to be eligible. That's it. There is no graduate degree required to apply. You do not have to have a master's degree. You don't have to have started a master's degree. You can now apply to this program without a master's degree at all. Speaking of master's degrees, let's talk a little bit about what that requirement does look like. Because if you aren't aware, starting in January of 2024, in order to be eligible to sit for the RDN exam, you do have to have a master's degree now. Again, I'd like to reinforce that it is not a requirement to apply to our program, but you will need one in order to sit for the RDN exam. And like I said, I think on the slide a little bit earlier about what some of the benefits of this program are, we have a lot of flexibility. We have options. So one of the options is if you do happen to already have a master's degree, it's pretty straightforward. You can complete the internship in 8 months and just complete the supervised practice component of this program, which would be September through April. And now, brand new, for interns who don't have a master's degree, you can complete the internship simultaneously with 2 options, which I'll talk about on the next slide. You'll complete the internship at the same time as the graduate degree in about 15 months. So what that would look like is you would start the master's degree in the spring semester, or excuse me, in the summer semester. You'd continue your coursework through fall, spring, and then finish out your coursework in the following summer semester, and then get it all done in kind of one fatal blow of 15 months. So the 2 graduate degree options, if you are coming to the point of sending in your application and you have not started a master's degree, you will have to pick one of these 2 options. The reason why you have to pick one of these 2 options is because we have to make sure that you can complete the master's degree within a certain amount of time based on our accrediting body's requirements. So both these programs are online. One is U of A's Professional Science Masters in Applied Nutrition, and the other is ASU's Master of Science in Nutritional Sciences. So at the point of application, you would just indicate that you do not have a master's degree already and tell us which one you would like to apply to. You don't actually have to apply to a graduate degree until you've been accepted into the WIC Dietetic internship, but I will stress that if you are looking to become a registered dietitian, you will have to have a master's degree. So there's no reason to delay starting one of these programs. We're talking about this in August. Applications aren't even due until January. So if you are looking at this as the path for you to become a registered dietitian, I would strongly encourage you to start that graduate degree as soon as possible. But again, it is not a requirement to apply to the program. I will also say that on this previous slide here, where I talked about those who have a graduate degree versus those who don't have a graduate degree, we also still do accept interns who have started a master's degree and maybe haven't finished it or are still working on it. These cases are a little bit more individualized, and I would strongly recommend that if you are at this point in your graduate degree process, just to reach out and schedule some one-on-one time to talk about when your graduate degree will be finished, so we can kind of talk through which cohort would be the most appropriate for you to go into. As far as those two graduate degree options, though, if you are applying without a master's degree, you can click on the QR code on this slide. I'll send these out, or you can also scan them and explore those a little bit more. Another thing about graduate degree options, too, is this is a separate cost than the internship itself. So our internship is no tuition. We are not partnered with these master's degrees, we are affiliated with. So there is a separate tuition cost for pursuing a graduate degree. But I would, again, I'm saying the word strongly encourage a lot because what I want you to do is actually explore this. But I would strongly encourage you to look at what your organization's tuition reimbursement looks like, because we've had several past graduates who have utilized tuition reimbursement through their organizations and paid significantly less for their master's degree by utilizing that tuition reimbursement. But it's very individualized based on organization. So I would talk to your supervisor or your HR department to get more information about that. That's it for eligibility. Again, all you need to have is a DPD verification statement, have worked for Arizona WIC for at least 6 months, and currently be working for Arizona WIC. That's it. Super straightforward. You are then eligible to submit your application. And that looks like this. If you are familiar with the supervised practice application process, you might have heard the word DICAS thrown around. And that is a centralized system that many dietetic internships do use for the application process. The good news is we don't have to do that. Again, our focus is really removing extra fees and steps involved in the application process to make this a relatively low risk, low cost option. And so applications just get sent directly to me via email once you've compiled all the pieces that have to be submitted. One nice thing is by avoiding DICAS, that means there's no extra fee because DICAS does require a fee. And then we also don't have an application fee from Maricopa County's side of things either. It doesn't even cost anything to apply to this program. Applications are accepted via email annually beginning on October 1st, and then they are due by January 15th at midnight. So what the timeline of this looks like, and this can be found on our website, is applications are accepted starting October 1st. Applications close and are due on January 15th. We review applications for the next cohort in January and February, interview in February, and then we will let applicants know by March 1st whether they've been accepted, waitlisted, or rejected. It is very, very, very likely that you will hear about what your status is much sooner than March 1st. But that is the absolute latest time that we can let you know about where you sit as far as whether you've been accepted or not. And of course, we need to know from you whether you've accepted or not. And so by March 15th is when applicants would have to accept or decline an offer. So what actually goes into an application? What has to be sent to me via email? First and foremost, please make sure that you have unofficial transcripts. You don't need to be paying for transcripts. Again, let's avoid extra costs associated with this. If you are accepted into the program, that's the point in time that I will collect official transcripts from you. But purely for the application, I just need unofficial transcripts from the DPD college or university. And then if you have started any graduate degree coursework or you have a master's degree, just unofficial transcripts showing what you've done. Again, it's not a requirement to apply though. So if you don't have that, it doesn't give you like a ding or it's not a negative on your application. Let's see. So the next thing is you will share the name and the email address of who will be completing a recommendation for you. There's also a signed verification. So this is your DPD verification statement that you've received. You should have received that if you do have one. Once you graduated that program, you would have that from a DPD director. And I do need an actual copy of that because it is one of the eligibility requirements. Updated copy of your resume. This is the official letter declaration of intent signed by you and your supervisor saying that you are applying. And of course, a personal statement. I wanted to highlight a couple different pieces of what should be submitted as far as your application goes, just throughout the next couple slides. And one of them is the personal statement. This is one of my favorite things to review in an application because it shows the personal side, right? The person behind just this little email full of paperwork. But the basic questions are asked about kind of telling your story and addressing the following. But I did want to mention here at the bottom here, again, if you have a master's degree or you've started it, please mention it as part of your personal statement. Again, it is not a requirement to have a master's degree or to have started a master's degree to apply. So if you haven't, just simply state that. Again, it's not a negative against your application. It's just helpful for me to understand that you have not yet started. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about that recommendation because this is a really important aspect of your application. So in lieu of having letters of recommendation that are submitted on your behalf, what we do ask for is someone at your WIC agency who is part of the leadership team to provide a recommendation for you. So when you submit your application, you'll provide the name and the email of the person who's going to be completing your recommendation, and then that person will receive a form to complete. And essentially, this is the chance for your leadership team to say whether or not they want you to come back and work for them as a registered dietitian. This is really, really important. You have to have WIC agency leadership recommendation to continue on into this program. Again, there's a contract associated with this. You do continue to work for Arizona WIC for 2 years after passing that RD exam, and we need to know that they are in support of having you return. So at this point, if you are interested in looking at the WIC dietetic internship, you're potentially looking to become a registered dietitian, I would really, really recommend that you start talking about your interest in this program with the leadership team at your agency, because again, you do need them to recommend you for this program. The declaration of intent is a more formalized way of saying that you are actually applying to this and that your supervisor is signing off as well. If you're interested in looking at that, you can scan the QR code here or click into it with the slides once I send them in a follow-up email. But that is something that does need to be included in the application. All right, perfect timing. I was hoping to wrap up about this point so we have time for questions. We have all of this information and more on our website. It's completely up to date. It has information about those graduate degree options. It has links to get to those graduate degree options. There's even more information on here about what the program schedule looks like, where our rotation sites are. Really anything and everything you can possibly need to know about the program is going to be found at our website. So please visit us there and check out more information. And at this point, if you are even considering applying to the WIC dietetic internship, or you're looking at becoming an RD, I want to hear from you. This process can be very individualized. It depends on where you're at in your master's degree process. I mean, there's a lot of individualization that takes place within this dietetic internship track. So if you are looking at applying to this, please reach out, schedule some one-on-one time to talk about it and just chat about where you are. It helps to have you on my radar to know that you're interested in becoming part of this track. And with that, my contact information is on the slide. I'm going to stop sharing now and open it up for any questions. We have several minutes, so we are good to go. So ask away.
I have a question.
Yeah, go right
Hi,
ahead.
my name's Anna. I'm one of the health educators here. So do you happen to know an estimation of how much the cost is for the master's through ASU or U of A?
Yes, that's a really good question. And I think I want to say probably about $20,000.
Okay.
And another little add-on to that, again, we're in August, right? The next cohort doesn't start until September of 2025. I got to make sure I have my ears right. These are not the only two master's degree options. Again, if you get to the point of applying and you have not started a master's degree, you do need to pick one of those two options. But right now, there's a lot of different options out there. I'm always happy to meet and talk about other options that past grads have used because there are other places that do offer online master's degrees that I would say are significantly cheaper than the ASU or the U of A program. And yes, and I don't know, was that Dulce? Did you just put that in there that you do not need a master's in nutrition either? So that's another thing where if you want to explore and maybe diversify a little bit of what you already know, you don't have to have a master's in nutrition in order to sit for the RD exam. You can pick it in whatever you want. So this is kind of the time where if you're looking at pursuing a master's degree to become a registered dietitian, there's a lot of options out there. And I'd be happy to meet and talk more about some of the ones that we have testimonials for and where people had really good experiences.
Okay. Thank you.
Dulce typed in about public health. Yeah, you could get a master's in public health. Absolutely. I will say those programs tend to be longer and very involved. You will learn a ton, but they do tend to be longer because there's more credit hours and they are on the more expensive end, but you're also getting more bang for your buck because you're learning something different than just nutrition, right? What other questions?
I do have a question.
Huh.
My name's Jennifer. You did say that we would be like compensated, I guess, like paid for our time. Because I know that a lot of internships are like they're not paid for. So that's like time and money that we like won't get back. How would the pay look like for in this program?
So it depends on your agency. So I can't necessarily speak to exactly how Pima County does it, but you should continue to receive pay and benefits throughout the program. I think the example that I will give is you either can continue with what you're currently receiving as far as pay goes, but there are some agencies, like I know Maricopa County moves their dietetic interns to a contractor position, and that might have a slight pay decrease for the duration of the internship. So I would have that conversation with your agency leadership of what does that pay look like when you are a dietetic internship, and does it change from what you're currently making right now?
Okay. And that would be for the 1,000, or what was the number? 100
1,000 hours. So it would be
for the
from,
1,000 hours.
yeah, so you continue to retain employment. You would be doing it from September through April.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Valeria.
Valeria.
So because I know it's like through Maricopa County, are the rotations done in Phoenix or does it just kind of depend?
That's another really good question. And I figured if no one else had other questions, that was the one I was going to actually answer already. So you're reading my mind. So yes, our internship is based out of Phoenix, but we do have flexibility to potentially place interns in sites that are in other places, usually Tucson. So we do have, especially for the longer rotations, we do have a rotation at Tucson Unified School District that we can do, and then also a couple different clinical nutrition options. There are rotations that would take place in Phoenix, though. And so it would be overnight stays. You'd have to figure out some lodging for some of those rotations. But again, we have the ability to individualize and tailor a little bit. So if it's something that you're concerned about or you want to talk through a little bit more, I'd suggest meeting one-on-one and we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like. I don't want that to be a barrier to keep someone from applying. If if that's the reason you're not applying, I want to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had as well was how competitive is the like application process? Like how many applications do you guys get?
It depends on the year. I'm going to be
Mm,
honest, ever since that master's degree requirement went into effect, our application numbers have definitely increased or decreased.
mm,
It's but hopefully what we're hoping with having this new graduate degree option for those who are applying without a master's degree, it now gives more options. And so we're hoping to see an increased pool of applicants. But in this current cohort that's starting, gosh, here in 4 weeks or so, we have 5 interns for 6 spots. So we didn't even fill.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. What other questions? All right, I'm going to just make one more comment and then we'll wrap up. So Dulce, remind me, when you went through this, are you in a 3-year contract or a 2-year contract?
I think it's 3 years.
I think you're 3 years. I'm 95% certain that it's 3
Yeah,
years.
I'm pretty
So,
sure I'm 3 years.
okay. So that's another change that we did make that I touched on, and I'm going to tell you all a little bit more of why we did that. So it used to be that at the end of graduation, your contract payback started and you were contracted to work for Arizona WIC for 3 years. Now that contract payback starts once you pass the RD exam, and it only lasts for 2 years. And what we're doing, why we did that is, again, I think it's reasonable to expect someone to stick around for 2 years. Honestly, we have really good retention, and about 88% of our graduates continue to stay working in public health for Arizona WIC beyond that time frame. But we're incentivizing you all getting in there and taking that exam as soon as possible. Again, we pay for it. There's no reason to delay. And what we've seen with our graduates is that the sooner they take the exam, the more likely they are to pass with fewer attempts. So that's part of why that changed. So the benefit on your all's end is that once you pass that exam, you only have a 2-year contract payback, which is really great. All right, any last second questions as we wrap this lunch and learn up? Right. Well, I'm going to send a follow-up email after this with a link to this recording, plus a little handout that talks about some of the information that we talked about today. Again, if you have questions or even just want to chat about where you're at in the process, where your head's at, I'm always happy to meet one-on-one and just talk about any questions, concerns, thoughts that you might have. Again, it helps for me to have you on my radar if you are interested in being a part of this program for sure. With
You guys can
that,
also ask me too.
and you can ask Dulce. Yes, absolutely.
Honestly,
Absolutely.
this dietetic internship, 10 out of 10. I would do it again, for sure.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yes, Dulce is an excellent source of information as well. So you can always get all the details from her and hear a little bit more about what her experience was like too. All right. Well, thank you all for hopping on here for a lunch and learn. Please enjoy your lunch or what you have left of it. And again, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bye.
Bye.